Welcome back to Real Creative Leadership. We have made it to the end of Season 5, which feels like a huge milestone to me. I'm grateful for all of you for helping get us here. But why is this such a big deal? Season 5. I mean, many podcasts don't make it past a couple of episodes, let alone multiple seasons. And we've made it 5 seasons, which is crazy. And it's not just that, we've had amazing guests along the way, but you've stuck with us and many others have joined. So we're super grateful for everyone who's made Real Creative Leadership a part of their creative learning. And it's been such an awesome season that we thought, what are some of the lessons that we've learned from the guests this year? And really, we decided to make this episode. If you haven't listened to all the episodes, that's fine, because this is going to be a really good summary. And not just a summary, but more than a best hits or greatest hits. It's also more of like, where are things going? I mean, this is really all about 3 big, huge topics in creative leadership. Call them trends, call them the future of creative leadership, whatever it may be. These are 3 really, really important topics that we need to all pay attention to. So today we're going to talk about those 3 themes, and they are global growth, creative vision, and the future of design. And we're going to talk about them in depth and also bring back clips from earlier episodes of this season so that we can get a good understanding of how these 3 things will impact our future. And while these are relevant for all professionals, they really do offer some unique considerations for creative leaders. For example, what does creative leadership look like when your creative teams are scattered throughout the world? Or how do you build and maintain a point of view when the creative landscape is constantly evolving? And of course, our favorite, what is the future of design, especially when it has to do with AI? That is a topic that I've had to speak on multiple times this year. And we're going to dig into how AI really is going to impact us as creative leaders. So our guests this season have made it very clear that despite all the challenges, we still have a lot of opportunities for creative leaders to grow their teams, to innovate and reimagine our processes. We really have so much potential. So let's review some of this season's most powerful episodes and how they can impact you and the future of your creative teams and creative leadership. One of the defining shifts in creative leadership today is navigating the complexities of global growth. And this is something that is personal to me because it's been a part of my team for the last several years. First of all, on my current team right now, we are in the process of hiring a 6 to 8 people in Colombia. And in my last job at Splunk, I hired, I think about the same number of people down in Costa Rica. And it's really interesting to see why and where this global growth is going. The reasons why we're hiring in those 2 areas is because of time zone constraints, right? So that the team is still at the same time zone as the rest of us. And that's super helpful. But I also have team members in Europe, and we have, partners in Australia and all around Asia. And it's really, really tricky to deal with time zones. I know that's like a part of today for many of us, but there's more to it than just time zones. It's really about discovering new talent and new talent centers and people who see things in different ways and have different things to bring to the table. And it's been amazing. And we've really enjoyed expanding our team and getting a lot of insights and guidance from people who haven't had the same experience as me. But managing global teams isn't just about connecting across time zones or mastering new platforms. It's about staying competitive in rapidly expanding markets, where you're not just improving your own creative game, but helping your whole team rise to new challenges. As leaders, we're also stepping into the role of storytellers and content creators ourselves, establishing our brands and our teams as influential voices in a crowded digital landscape. But here's the key takeaway. As our teams become more global, effective growth is really about compassion. Compassion for our people and compassion for ourselves. It's about creating a work environment where each team member feels seen, heard, and truly valued. What are we doing to make our teams feel invested? Are we cultivating a brand culture that people actually want to be a part of each day? I think that's where compassionate leadership plays a pivotal role in global expansion. And for Jen Stern, Group Creative Director at PayPal, compassionate leadership is what she called sidecar leadership. It's a really cool term that she brought up. It's all about using tools of self-awareness and empathy in a spirit of collaboration. So let's watch a clip about Jen describing what it looks like in action for sidecar leadership.
Yeah, I think a lot of this sidecar leading with support, a lot of it comes from like building trust with your team. Like you want them to trust you enough to like have you in the sidecar with them, right? It's like the two of you are going to set down this path of like solving this problem or something. You want them to feel that trust already, that you are going to guide them in the right direction. You're going to be there for them. And so just establishing trust amongst your team by little things like you're not going to hop all over the best projects, right? You're checking in with them, you're checking in with their creative health, and all of everyone's success is like the team's success. We're not going for individual success, and like really just establishing that trust and then letting them know that like you are out there to help them sort of. I think a lot of it is like also you're willing to roll up your sleeves. If you see them drowning in something, you're not going to be like, that's not for me to do, or I don't do that. It's like, I equate it with like back in the agency day, like I'm going to change the toner in the copier because none of us can print our decks out. Like I'm not going to, if that's an obstacle, like I have no problem removing that and just showing them that like you're willing to do whatever it takes to get them to where they need to go. So once you've established that, I think they're more willing to have you there and like come to you with problems or not understanding like, what is the point? Why are we doing this? Sometimes like projects, they seem like, what is the point of this? Why are we doing this? This isn't creatively fulfilling. This seems stupid, right? And then if you paint a bigger picture of like the business and what this will mean for our stakeholders, you kind of help them understand why it's important to still, come up with the best creative output or the best creative solution. I think that all feeds into just being their support so that they can do the best job, knowing the bigger picture.
Wasn't that awesome? I love what Jen shared about leading from a place of support and trust. It's a reminder that in creative work, leadership often means being right there in the trenches with our team. And this actually really works well with my leadership style. For me, it's all about teaching correct principles and then letting the team manage themselves. It's, not micromanaging. It's just really getting in deep so they understand the why. And I think Jen was getting into some of that, where it's like, if they didn't understand why we're doing this or what this has to do with me, that's really a big part of what we are as leaders, is explaining the why. And so if we can do that from a place of support and trust and help people understand that vision, then we're in great shape. So really love Jen explaining that to us. Sidecar leadership isn't the only way that we can deal with managing global teams. There was another great guest, Maya Dukes, Managing Director of Global Brand Strategy at Delta Airlines, and she brought a different perspective on it. Maya brings a structured, intentional approach to compassionate leadership, integrating team development directly into Delta's daily operations. During our conversation, I asked her how she encourages her team to grow and stay inspired, while also staying accountable to the company's goals. Her insights really stuck with me, especially her thoughts on making personal development a priority in the creative process. That's pretty interesting. Not just a nice to have. So many times as leaders, we're like, oh yeah, dedicate 10% to this or 5% to that. But Maya made it a part of the program. So let's hear what Maya had to say about this interesting idea.
So as you bring up all of these different aspects of your team, that's the next big question somebody be asking, like, all right, so how do you encourage others on your team? Like, we're bad enough that we're, as leaders, sometimes skipping the Beyonce concerts, and we shouldn't. It's like trying to take care of ourselves. But how do we take care of the others and encourage them to, fill the well?
Yeah, we operationalize it. So I know a lot of organizations, we put metrics behind it. We have a roadmap that it's almost like our creative Bible, where we put all of the initiatives and projects that obviously the organization wants us focused on. And then we put our learning and development goals on that roadmap. We put our growth and inspiration goals on that roadmap. We put a lot of our task forces on that roadmap, and we have a inspiration. We have emerging technology. We have a lot of focus areas awards, and recognition is also a task force. But those task forces aren't side hustles. It's not like, hey, when you have time, join the awards committee. No, we have metrics that align to some of the overarching goals within our organization that we can go back at review time and say, hey, did you really prioritize learning and development for your team? And I'm looking at the leaders when I ask that question, hey, did you really prioritize creating a career development plan for your team, which would include well-being, your wellness week? Did you take it? Did you encourage your team to take it? Are you modeling the behaviors that you're asking your team to do? And then we're holding you accountable for that, because that's a huge component of our results.
I think what's so impactful about Maya's approach is the way she makes personal growth and team development non-negotiable. She's woven it directly into the core of Delta's creative strategy. It's not just a nice to have or something that gets squeezed in when there's extra time. It's a part of the roadmap, just like any other key project or brand initiative. I love how she's operationalized this, because as leaders, it's easy to get caught up in the urgency of deliverables and deadlines, and things like team development can often fall by the wayside. But Maya reminds us that the true creative leadership involves accountability, not just for the business results, but for the growth and well-being of our teams. That's critical. I love that she brought that up. And by integrating learning, wellness, and career development into their day-to-day goals, she's setting a standard that pushes leaders to lead by example. I really think we have to ask ourselves, do we, when we're busy and we don't know if there's time for this, but are we modeling the right behaviors we want to see in our teams? Because at the end of the day, the way we prioritize our team's growth will always reflect on the work that we produce. So we started this episode talking about global growth, which is critical, but you can't grow your creative team without a strong vision. And that's the next thing we're going to talk about: creative vision. Creative vision is critical. I think that is the biggest thing that distinguishes a regular creative from a creative leader. It really is about, do you have a vision for your brand, a vision for your team, a vision for your career, a vision for this project, whatever it may be. Having a vision is critical. And the thing I really think about, it's because this is close to home recently, as I've been putting together a new brand vision for my current company, Twilio. It's really about answering the question, why? I think it's easy for us as creatives to go and say, I have a vision of what this is going to look like, or I have a vision of this TV spot, or I have a vision of this idea. But really, a creative vision is bigger than that. It's all about what's the creative vision, the why, the reasons that people are going to care about it, the reasons that business owners and business leaders are going to care about it. What's in it for all of them? You're really trying to craft a plan or a vision that infuses creativity, but also answers all those business questions. So creative vision is critical, and that's not going away. Not only is it a hallmark of a true creative leader, it's really what's making us different and special, especially as we start to talk about AI in this next section. A creative vision is what's going to change everything for that company or that brand or that project. So super, super important. And a strong creative vision is more than just a guiding light for teams. It's the fuel that drives customer experience. We all know that customers expect so much more than great products. They want immersive, meaningful brand experiences. And creative leaders that shape those experiences in ways that add real value to the business will make creative leadership more essential than ever. I think creative vision is about showing executives and teams what creativity can truly bring to the table. It quantifies the value, highlighting how creative thinking can directly enhance both the brand and the customer journey. So our job as creative leaders is to define and communicate that vision. And stop. Is to make it clear that creativity isn't just the magic in the background, but it's a measurable asset that's shaping success. Your creative vision is your future. And a good example of getting to the why is from this next clip. I want to share with you a conversation I had with Karan Dang, co-founder and CEO of his own brand consultancy. He talks about something he calls next-gen centricity. It's his way of helping brands connect with younger audiences to sustain long-term value. So here's Karan explaining how aligning with the next generation requires us to rethink everything about brand strategy, from where we communicate to how we show up for our customers. Let's take a look.
It goes back to what we spoke about, right? It's that curiosity, the creative curiosity. At Dang, we have a fancy word for it. We call it the art of digital anthropology, right? Because that curiosity now lives, all over the internet, right? So we have, team members, right, whose job is to be part of those Discord servers, right? Go join those, Substacks, right? Like be on TikTok all the time, right? And gather those insights, right? Like go on those subreddits, like double click into those to find, right? Like it's not rocket science. The answers and the opportunities all exist out there, right? It's just putting in the effort and going into places and spaces where the next generation of consumer thrives and understanding, their needs, right? Like, I mean, part of a content series that I do, I interviewed like a Gen Z folk a week, after that. Like I interviewed somebody last week where, she was talking about like how brands kind of, like represent the Gen Z audience as almost like this cringe, right? Like, uh, that's so true, because a lot of times we come from a place of, oh, this is a new audience, let's make fun of them, right? And let's use their lingo, right? Like suddenly change those things, right? But it's understanding why certain words exist in their vocabulary, right? Like why certain aesthetic lives in their like visual vernacular, right? It's understanding the reason, right? Like the next generation of consumer probably had it hardest, right? Like they saw they were probably born or like very young at the age of in 2008 2009 crisis. They have seen a lot of the wars that have happened, that America had participated in, maybe softening it by saying participated, but they've lived, they were ready to go into the workforce, when COVID hit, right? They are now, with like this, the blackout Monday that happened, this Monday, right? Like they are seeing, inflation, they're seeing recession. So that audience has gone through a lot, they have, a lot of those experiences shape their identity, shape their personalities, and in turn shape those cultures, right? And all of that exists out there because they are the most vocal audience out there, right? Like they are tweeting, talking, posting about that stuff everywhere. So it's just keeping an eye out on that. And I think it's being at that forefront, of where that culture is being built. The three tenets I would say, of our company is the culture, that they consume, the communities that they live in, and the commerce habits that they have, right? Like that's how we shape everything. We put everything through that lens, and that's how we, I feel like we've created that model around that.
Thanks, Karan. That was awesome. And his perspective on centering the next generation in our creative vision is inspiring because it reminds us to be forward-thinking and adaptive and meet audiences where they are. I love that idea of focusing on their communities or on the types of media they consume. I mean, that's so critical because that's changing all the time. And so if your audience is younger, how are you creating those awesome communities they want to be a part of? How are you creating content that is on the platform that they care about? That's critical. So as we're creating a creative vision, it's not just about your big ideas, but what do the audiences care about? What do they want? Where are they? So that we can make sure we're connecting with them in the right ways. I think it's especially relevant in a world where every detail of creative work contributes to a brand identity. Speaking of which, that brings us to their next guest, Laura Monteroso Dollar. She is an audio specialist and founder of Music Collective. She emphasizes that creative vision succeeds only when it's anchored in meticulous attention to detail. And for her, that's sound. For her, everything from music choice to tempo, it all needs to reflect the brand's personality and values, which is super fascinating. Rather than just thinking about design or writing or video, how does sound and audio play a bigger part in our branding? So as we're thinking about our creative vision, how can we make audio a bigger part of our creative vision? All right, let's hear and see what Laura has to say.
I think as much as we educate people, we need to be educated ourselves of the brand, and the branding team, or either the agency team or the branding team or the marketing team, would be able to educate us of what the brand is. Because people, choosing music and sound is very subjective, right? We always think about our feelings. We always think about our choices, our personal choices as people. But we never really see that a brand is a persona itself. It has its own values, is that it has its own identity, and that's the person that we need to focus on. And that's why as much information we get from the marketing teams, the advertising teams, the branding teams, the better for us in order to translate all of those values into music. And as you say, music is a whole other world. You think about harmony, tempo, you think about instrumentation, you think about, is the brand culturally relevant, or what target audience does it have? What type of music does that target audience listen to as well? You think about everything within that spectrum. And then also not only thinking about communications, what is the brand positioning, and also where is the brand communicating? Is it only on TVCs? Probably not. You want to create experiences. I think we're living in a much more human type of experience era. And that has a lot to do with, a lot of the creative output as well. Again, it's not only a track, it's how can you really create something consistent that's quite holistic throughout every single, touch point overall.
What Laura shared is an important reminder that every element of creative output needs to be purposeful and aligned with the brand's identity. Period. Whether that's design elements or sound, as creative leaders, it's on us to ensure that every detail adds up to a cohesive experience for the audience. It's not just about creating cool content, it's about building an authentic, emotional connection with people. At the end of the day, that's what a creative vision is all about. It's about bringing our unique perspective and attention to detail to every interaction customers have with our brand. And it's what makes creativity so valuable in shaping a brand perception and ultimately brand loyalty. Again, going back to what I started out talking about, it's the why. All of these details, all of these elements bring us back to the why this matters to our audience. And I think that's super powerful. This brings us to our third topic, the future of design. For creative leaders today, looking toward the future of design means thinking strategically about both where we're headed and how we're going to get there. That's where strategic foresight comes in. It's about anticipating what's next and navigating a landscape shaped by rapid tech evolution and change, design thinking, and of course, our favorite, AI. But here's the thing, as powerful as AI is, the future of design is not just a technological shift. It's a human one. And this has been a big part of my journey over the last year in AI. So in one company, we did this big manifesto about what AI means to us. And an important part of that is making it human-centered. And actually, what was fascinating is that as we were looking towards how we can progress as a brand and use AI on the right ways, it was all about how can we use AI to become more human? Because on its own, AI is not human, right? It's just blurting out whatever stuff we put in there and rearranging stuff. So putting a human in the center was critical for us of saying, if AI is going to be the future, how do we keep humans as a part of that? Because AI can help us, but it can't replace the force of creativity. The unpredictable leaps that our brains make, but bring around that originality. We're not just here to simply solve design as a math problem. We're here to create a vision, and that is uniquely human. And it's an edge that we bring to creative work, the courage, the curiosity, the compassion that can't be coded. So in a time when automation feels like it's everywhere and people are afraid and worried, let's just focus on the fact that our role as creative leaders is to harness this new technology while keeping creativity at its most human, which is pretty cool. All right, so thinking about this idea of the future of design, I talked with Jod Kaftan, who's the head of product research and design at Oracle. He was crystal clear in his beliefs. Creativity is inseparable from life itself. For Jod, creative leadership means developing a creative vision grounded in moral imagination, which is an interesting term. We're going to hear more about that. Which means guiding teams to think about not just the products they create, but the world they want to help build. So here's Jod sharing his thoughts on how he sees creativity as a life force and why the future of design is all about balancing innovation with our humanity. Oh yeah, and we shouldn't worry too much about AI, really. It's not that big a deal. Let's hear from Jod.
I think I've never been more challenged than now to bring creative leadership into sort of this age of big tech companies downsizing their design investments and, just solely focused on AI. And a lot of these are engineering dominant cultures. And like I said, they can sometimes turn creativity into a math problem that can be solved. And you even seen, this is even with the rampant IP violations, being made by Gen AI art bots, whether it's using Scarlett Johansson's voice or just the struggling artist's IP that's living in a flop house in Bushwick, right? Like there's an advancement of the technology and there's not an advancement of the ethics. That can create some unique challenges. So I like to think of creative leadership as also primarily focused on what's called moral imagination. What future do I want to live in? And what future do I want my customers and the people I work with to live in? Right? So my approach is really to find an opportunity, find a weakness in the existing orthodoxy. And it usually has something to do with a dearth of long-term thinking and innovation. And why is that? Because we're living in this era of short-term CEO tenures, right? Where they're chasing down revenue, right? And they're kind of like, yeah, it's 5 quarters from now, I won't be in this job. That's for the next person's problem to worry about, right? And so we've deprioritized that longer term thinking as a result, and the propensity to engage in visioning and creating greater resilience to disruption. So I try to find something that everyone wants, which is exciting ideas that go to market. And then it's really about trying to get people to unlearn things that they've learned in order to do that.
Wasn't that awesome? What I love about Jod's perspective is the emphasis on our responsibility of creative leaders to shape the future with both foresight and intention. In an era where AI and automation is changing everything, how we work, how we do our jobs, it's really on us to maintain that human element, our ability to dream, to disrupt, and to bring meaning to every project. Creativity, as Jod says, is an unstoppable force, one that AI can enhance but never replace, and I agree 100%. And that's a powerful reminder as we guide our teams to embrace innovation while staying true to what makes us human. AI can help, but humans, we're the ones that come up with the vision. We're the ones that come up with the ideas. We're the ones that are going to create a better world, and I love that. And with that, we wrap up Season 5 of Real Creative Leadership. Thank you for being a part of it. Reflecting back on the season, it's clear that creativity has become more essential than ever in driving global growth, defining a compelling creative vision, and navigating the future of design. Whether it's managing global teams, connecting with next-gen audiences, or balancing innovation with ethical foresight, our guests have shown what it means to lead with purpose, passion, and humanity. And as we head into next season, I invite you all to think about what your role as a creative leader should be and how you can shape the future that's not just innovative, but also meaningful. So thank you for being a part of this community. We'll see you next time, ready to explore new ideas and continue building the future that we're all proud of. Thanks for joining me as part of Real Creative Leadership. We'll see you next season. As always, you can find me at adamwmorgan.com. And finally, this show is produced by the Stoke Group, a full-service digital agency that specializes in content marketing, video, and interactive experiences. So if you're looking for a partner for strategy or content or anything else, visit thestokegroup.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.